So I'm pretty active in Black Pill Discord servers, and I have quite a few guys reach out to me. Because I'm pretty open about how I look. Like I show off, my appeal and all that. And I have quite a few guys reach out to me, asking for like ratings, right? And then advice. But they really emphasize the ratings. Like what? Am I a 5.5 or a 5.75? Which one am I? And like I just think that's just so pointless. And like, see the point there. I'm not saying ratings are useless. There definitely is some value in understanding the rating system, right? Mainly like at different tiers, right? You can expect different reactions from women, right? And oftentimes guys that are like MTNs, especially in like closer to the upper range of MTNs, get discouraged because they don't get that many IOIs. But the truth is, at least from what I've experienced, there's a point at which like you're like you get like you with like a 0.25 to point 0.5 increase, you get like a lot like a spike in IOIs. And I think the reason behind that is how much you stick out compared to other guys, right? Because most guys are like in the LTN MTN range, right? So if you're still in that range, like with enough gesture max, you can still get with a pretty good looking girl. But like if you're like above MTN, if you're like in the HTN range, you're gonna like in most circles with a lot of guys, you're gonna be one of the better looking ones, if not the best looking guy in that group, right? So obviously, if you have a bunch of girls in the group, like you're gonna get the most IOIs among all of them, right? And from a higher MTN to like a mid HTN is like a point 0.5 jump, right? Um, so with that point 0.5 jump, you see like a sudden spike. Whereas from like LTN to MTN, you might see a slight difference, maybe if you gesture max a lot, but you're not baseline. Like, by doing nothing, you're not going to see that many more IOIs, right? So anyway, that was a long tangent, but that's why ratings can be helpful to understand these kind of things. But obsessing over the rating itself and not what it tells you about how you can perform with women, that's where it just people go way too far with that shit. Like, oh my god! Like I remember when I was, still like, like I was still doing the same shit, right? I would ask people for ratings. I'd try to get ratings, and like more than actual attraction for women, I for some reason I cared about getting a 5.5 or higher rating or 6 or higher rating, right? And it didn't even make any sense to me. Like, like back then, some guys like with certain pictures that were angle frauded or like that were somehow lighting, somehow like, boosted to my favor, I would get like HTN or lower HTN ratings, right? And now if I went on a Blackpool server and posted the selfie, I'd probably get the same rating. However, now I slay way more than I did then because of appeal differences, right? And it's worth noting, and I'll probably talk about this, break this down in more detail in the future videos, but there is a pretty big difference. There's two styles of rating, right? And sometimes I kind of interchangeably use terms, but I should be clear when I'm using these terms. But there's the PSL rating system and there's like the standard decibel rating system, right? And the PSL rating system, you're going to get a lot lower rating. So like a 5 PSL is actually a really good rating. That's probably equivalent to like a HCN in like if you get if a PSL head PSL autist tells you you're like a MTN, that means you're like like in the decibel scale like an HTN. And maybe I'll give you a quick breakdown now, right? For PSL, right, like average would be like LTN, right? And then MTN would be like above average and HTN would be like well above average. Whereas for like, the more standard decibel system, which is more like an SMV kind of rating, right? LTN would be slightly below average. MTN would be like, average, slightly above average range. And then HTN would be decently above average. And Chad Light would be well above average, right? So like you could, and it's not always true, but this is not always the case because PSL looks at different things than, like the standard SMV rating, right? The decibel SMV rating. PSL looks at just bone structure, right? So you can be somewhat low PSL but have higher SMV, right? And you can also be somewhat high PSL and have low SMV, right? And there's cases of both. Like for example, someone like Ryan Gosling would not be particularly high in PSL, right? Because he doesn't have like that optimal of facial structure or anything, but his appeal is really high, right, for women. And there's plenty of other examples like that, right? And then someone like Jordan Barrett, right? I mean, like he's very high. He's like a PSL god, right? But like most women would not find him that attractive, right? So I would always like at the end of the day, what is the point of doing all this? What are we doing all this shit for? We're trying to slay, right? Maybe some guys want to cope in their misery more and more. Like they want to be like they take they have like a perverted satisfaction in being a victim, right? The whole victimhood mindset. But like for the most part, right? Deep down, some part of them wants to slay. That's why we're doing all this, right? And PSL is not as much of a predictor of slaying, right? Um, like SMV is the predictor of slaying. So maxing out your SMV obviously makes more sense. And that's why I think SMV ratings are more relevant than PSL ratings, right? So I don't and I don't focus that much on ratings. I try to avoid giving guys ratings because then the guys start to argue like, "Oh no, but what about this angle? No, push you up 0.5 times." Like, shut the fuck up. Like me giving you a little bit of a high rating is not going to change how like women treat you, bro. It's not going to make foys like you anymore if I give you a high rating. Are you going to show a foy like, look at this, look on Discord? This guy on Mindbetter on Discord told me that I'm actually a six out of 10. So you should be attracted to me. Like, dude, oh my God, man. Like, but seriously, this is how like it might sound like ridiculous, comical, right? But it is genuinely how I used to think. So I don't even like I'm not even judging that because I used to be like that too. But like yeah, like I only if you really insist on giving you a rating, I will do it, right? But like I don't see the use of that. I think giving you I think the best thing you can the most useful information you can give someone, right? Which is what a rating is supposed to convey, but people take it too serious. But the best thing you can give someone is, what you can expect right now, like how women can treat you, right? What you can change and what you can expect after you make those changes, right? So like like saying like you can go from a 5.5 to a 6.5 is equivalent to saying right now, you're probably slightly above average. You might get like a few IOs here, and you can definitely get with some women, if you gesture hard enough. However, if you ascend, you're going to get a lot more IOIs and you're not going to have to gesture as much, right? That conveys the same message, right? And that's why I stopped using the whole rating system because guys take that way the fuck too serious, man. Like, holy shit.